Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to my review for Ranger Academy Issue 2. A bit behind on these reviews, so I do apologize, but it should be a relatively short review. While there is some stuff to talk about, there's not like a ton to talk about. So it kind of acts like your typical first day of school episode. I think I said in the last review that it does kind of feel like almost like a Saturday morning cartoon classic kind of coming of age type of storyline, and it definitely gives you those feels, like not like feels like emotional, but like that feel like that vibe. And I think it's pretty well done in regards to kind of an entry-level Star Wars adventure style comic that I think younger viewers can get into. And like the main storyline revolving around the characters and stuff is enjoyable enough. I'm not overly invested in the characters, but I like the vibe enough that it's not like a chore to get through. My main excitement for this series, as stated before, has to do with the lore, as I like a lot of what they're doing with the lore, which I'll talk about in a second, and I think the characters and setting are pleasant enough to spend time with while I'm trying to get to the stuff that I'm invested in it for, if that makes any sense. Like, there are some series where you just aren't really liking it even if you like the lore and stuff, and it's hard to get through, but this is hardly hard to get through. Last issue was obviously our introduction, and like I said, this is kind of our classic first day at school storyline where we spend like a day in the life of the school, getting to know more about it. We spend a little bit of time at each of the different campuses, as one of the things we learned from kind of the pamphlet thing at the end of the last issue was that they're organized into different colors based on different ranger designations, which is something that people have been complaining about, the idea of categorizing it. I think it's actually kind of cool. I just think it's cool to see people's like spin on the lore, and I think that idea is kind of neat. And it's something that's been brought up in the comics before. They recently brought it up in the Darkest Hour event where they talked about how all Blue Rangers have like this one trait, which I cannot remember at the moment, but they do bring that up. It also was brought up, I believe, in Go-Go at one point, talking about characteristics of like red and yellow rangers. I think that it's kind of like a generalization, like all red rangers, yellow rangers, black rangers might have some core characteristics, even if they're different. And I actually think it's kind of cool, and it's going to be interesting to explore, because the whole idea is when you first start at the academy, you kind of cycle around to all of them to see what your best fit's going to be. And I don't know, I just kind of like that. We do see the headmaster. We learn that Zordon is the one that set it up, which I'm really curious. There's a lot of questions I have. I think from last time they set it up that this is sort of in a different time where you can have instructors and people coming in from different periods of time. So I'm curious as to when exactly chronologically this takes place, especially for Zordon, because in the comics universe he's alive, but they do follow a loose version of the original timeline, or timeline and universe's events. So I'm curious, does Zordon ever die? Does he come back? Does he set this out before? I don't know, but that is interesting. And they do have like characters coming in that are like guest lecturers and stuff that are rangers that are known. I think it would be cool at one point to get like a ranger character or characters that came in that were presented as if they were veteran rangers, but they're ones we haven't met yet. Because obviously, they're going to have some fan service. I think Doggy Kruger's in there next week, and it's easy to do that. But I think it would be cool to meet rangers from the New Powers teams or original teams that are presented through the lens of, hey, it's a veteran ranger, one we just haven't met yet. And we just kind of see some locations in the academy, like this one pool that's the power source of everything, this sort of ranger memorial thing. They established like how you're going to build your morpher and stuff like that. That was something else people were complaining about, that like this is going to create too many rangers they don't like. I mean, it's still not everybody in the world. This is just in an academy, and we don't know how it works. I don't know. It's no different to me than like Time Force or SPD Academy. I think it's cool. I think people are just complaining for the sake of complaining. I think there's some really cool stuff here with the lore of the idea of this Ranger Academy and all that stuff. The biggest drop we do get at the end, though, is when she meets, I think it's the librarian character. She sees an old photo and realizes that her dad was once at the academy, which is not so subtly foreshadowed in a dream sequence briefly where you see her dad wearing like an academy uniform, like clearly with somebody that was maybe her mother or something like that. It was kind of something you could see coming. I assumed that either, because he was so resistant to her getting in danger or being involved with the Ranger stuff, that either he was involved in the academy somehow or in the Ranger world. Like maybe like a Ranger did him wrong, or it's a reason his wife died, or something like that. But it was obviously at the academy. Pretty classic setup you've probably seen in a dozen different products, where you have like the character finding out their parent was once a hero or once worked at this academy or this organization or whatever. But it's base level interesting enough. I'm curious to see how it goes. But like I said, I'm mostly interested to see how the lore plays out in regards to the Ranger Academy and seeing them get their suits. There's also some brief beats of introducing some new characters that are her friends and her kind of like freshman level entry or whatever you want to call it, as like we have our introductory characters that like brought in Sage to the academy, but all of a sudden like Lula snaps at her for some reason. I don't know what that's about. I'm not really caring about that, but that is something that's set up, is a little bit of conflict between our original characters set up and introducing some new ones. But yeah, it was a solid issue. I'm still enjoying this. It's not like, oh my god, you guys have to read this, but it's a nice, enjoyable read that's giving me some cool PR lore to digest, especially during this, you know, quiet time for the franchise. But that's about it for this one, guys. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.